The third entry in our ongoing series, The Great Movies, is John Dahl's classic 1998 poker noir, Rounders.
But I can't stay for this.
For what?
To watch you go all in again.
We can't run from ourselves. Our destiny chooses us.
Deal.
Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Turturro, John Malkovich, Gretchen Mol, Famke Janssen, and Martin Landau. Rounders.
And we're back, like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I want to thank you all for spending some of your Thursday with me here in New York. Once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz, get right to the guts of the episode. Today will be the third entry in our ongoing series, simply titled The Great Movies. The first movie is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which by almost any metric would qualify for this sort of series. Regardless of personal preference, taste, it's acknowledged as a great movie. The second movie is a film that I consider to be one of the great movies, but a lot of people would simply have it as, oh no, it's very good. I could say it's not on the level of Psycho, but you get the point. Anything called the great movies, there will be some level of subjectivity, our personal, why a movie calls to us versus doesn't call to us, why it's, well, I think it's pretty good, and you think, fuck you, it's the best movie I've ever seen. So the third film is a movie that I actually consider to be a great film. Many people simply see it as super entertaining, and then there are those that will find a lot of fault with the way the game in question is put forth, is played, is executed, where they would say, well, this is not really how it goes. And I will agree with those criticisms, but it doesn't matter. Movie number 3 of the new and ongoing series, The Great Movies, is John Dahl's terrific 1998 noirish inspirational sports drama, even though it's not really about a sport, but it's the Matt Damon star Rounders. Now, I have a little poster of Rounders over here on this side of the room, but unfortunately you can't see it with the way that squeeze the image a little bit during the videos to give it more of a personal feel. But believe me when I tell you, there is a poster for Rounders next to the Pulp Fiction poster, next to the Dirty Harry poster, which I know that you can see. Rounders is a film which didn't do as well at the box office as it should have, given the pedigree. The cast is just incredible. And it didn't do as well as you would think, given the fact that it more or less triggered the new poker boom in the early 2000s, which still continues to this day. And it introduced a brand of poker that many casual players, such as myself, I grew up playing poker, thanks to my mom's mom, who was a lounge singer and spent decades of her life in lounges, in dusty card rooms, bar rooms where maybe she would sing. She played a lot of cards. She taught me how to play poker. I played tens of thousands of hands of poker with my grandmother. Never once did we play the Grand Slam Cadillac of poker, as the late great Doyle Brunson called it, Texas Hold'em. I had never seen Texas Hold'em played until seeing the movie Rounders. And not surprisingly, it's all that I play now. And there are many people like me who inadvertently became Hold'em specialists simply because it's often the only game in town. There are Atlantic City casinos, the ones that still deal poker. A lot of them don't anymore. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Bally's 2 huge poker rooms. They used to host World Series of Poker circuit events at Bally's Atlantic City. I played some great tournaments there in, circa 2019. No more poker. But even in the casinos that have functioning poker rooms, such as Harrah's and a Borgata, and even the Trop, which is not really doing that well, you got to really work to find 7-card stud, 5-card draw, 5-card stud, 7 deuce. 80% of the tables, if not more, Texas Hold'em. Sometimes limit, sometimes no limit. But that's all poppycock. That has nothing to do with the movie Rounders. The movie Rounders, it takes the form of a Rocky movie. An underdog, inspirational sports story about a prodigiously talented young man who has one goal in life. He's going to law school. It's supposed to be New York University, but NYU, my old alma mater, gave the filmmakers the proverbial finger. I guess they didn't want their exalted, esteemed university, I'm kind of kidding, but kind of not, associated with the kind of dirty, gritty elements that this movie gets into. But poker is not really a sport. It's televised on ESPN, though. The World Series of Poker draws consistently solid ratings. Even people who aren't necessarily big poker fans, if you even know the game a little, the whole card cameras, where in a movie we know what the characters have at various points. Go back to like 2001 or 2002 with the World Series of Poker. You didn't know what the players had. There was no whole card camera. The invention of the so-called whole card camera is up there with Rune Arledge deciding, hey, I have a great fucking idea. How about we put a football game on Monday night? Rune, you've lost your fucking mind. How many games are there on Sunday? No. Hear me out. The bettors who have gotten their clocks cleaned all weekend, we're going to give them one more shot to get even. Monday Night Football. Well, Rune Arledge was a visionary. Whether or not he intended to be, he may have just thought it was a good idea, but he was a visionary. Whoever came up with the idea at ESPN to put cameras into the felt so that the people watching at home could see what the players have. Fucking brilliant. But in the movie Rounders, that tech didn't exist in real life, but in the world of the movie, we know what the players have at various points. It adds to the drama. What's going to happen? So Matt Damon, who was coming off Good Will Hunting and The Rainmaker, Rounders was shot, I want to say that it was shot just after the runaway success of The Rainmaker, the Francis Coppola film, which I think is just phenomenal. There's a movie that's, to me, kind of underrated by history. I think it's a masterpiece. And Good Will Hunting, which got tremendous acclaim. Matt and, of course, his BFF, Ben Affleck, they won Best Screenplay. Matt was up for Best Actor. All kinds of acclaim. Minnie Driver, Best Supporting Actress. I think that Rounders was still in production when the 1998 Oscars, films released in 97, occurred, because Matt, it's almost ridiculous, but the color of hair and the length of hair that he sported at the Oscars is identical to what he has in the movie Rounders. I don't think that is just, it worked out the way. No, I think they were still shooting Rounders. It would make sense if in, let's say, March of 1998, a film that was not scheduled to be released for another 5 months, and it was not the kind of film that would necessarily have a long post-production because there really aren't any special effects. I think they were still shooting the film. But the Matt Damon we see in Rounders is an actor, a young actor still, 27, 28 years old, but one with the confidence that he had already made it. He gives a movie star performance in Rounders. He's opposite Edward Norton, who had been Oscar nominated already. He had been tremendous in the movie Primal Fear, and he had been Oscar nominated for People vs. Larry Flint. You know something? I'm not sure if he was Oscar nominated for that, now that you mention it. Well, now that I mention it. I know that Woody Harrelson was. But Edward Norton, in the same year as Rounders, would get an Oscar nomination for American History X. Edward Norton, it's always been said, he's a genius, might be difficult to work with because he's so damn smart, and he is massively resourceful, that he can do so many different things as a performer. And in this movie, he plays a character who is, it's difficult to compare him to who he plays in American History X, or Primal Fear for that matter. But he has an ingratiating way, and he's somebody that you really wouldn't want to meet in real life. Damon holds his own with the, again, fearsomely talented Edward Norton. He matches the great John Turturro in their scenes, and he more or less outdoes, even in scenes where he's on the receiving end and he's down. I think he gets the better of John Malkovich. And I believe to this day that John Malkovich should have won Best Supporting Actor for what he does in the movie with Clint Eastwood, In the Line of Fire. That was 5 years earlier. Some people would say, well, Tommy Lee Jones is great in The Fugitive. It should have been Ralph Fiennes for Schindler's List. Okay. But Malkovich, of those three, if those are the people we're talking about, Tommy Lee in The Fugitive, Tommy Lee Jones, not Tommy Lee, the rocker, Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List, or John Malkovich in the Line of Fire, Malkovich gives the most technically proficient, skillful performance of a character who changes and grows and seems to shift at various points, even though he is single-minded of purpose. It's an extraordinary performance. And I love what he does in Rounders, but he seems to be almost playing to the crowd and winking to the audience. And the Russian accent, I don't think we're supposed to laugh, but it's a fucking scream. And Matt Damon has kind of made jokes about this in some videos. Damon is such a terrific storyteller. I wish he would write more. But he said that as much as we kind of get on John and we joke around with the Russian accent, if you don't have my money, then you are mine. He said that Malkovich's idea coming in when he finally arrived, because they shot all the scenes with Malkovich came at the end of the shooting schedule, even though the first big poker scene and the last big poker scene in the film, one opens the movie and one kind of closes the movie, they're supposed to be months apart. But you have locations for a certain amount of time making a movie, and when you get to it, you're going to shoot everything together. So John Malkovich, they shot a good percentage, and Damon has talked about this, not even in a joking way. We were waiting for Malkovich to get here. The whole crew was talking about it. They still couldn't get over the fact that he was actually going to do this movie. But Malkovich came in with an idea of playing the character even broader than he ended up doing. And the accent was even more exaggerated. And then, I don't know whether it was Damon like, bro, I love you, but you got to tone it down. Or director John Dahl, just give me a little less, John. Give me a little less. I like where you're going, but give me a little less. But Malkovich, every line reading for me is absolute gold. And there are those that say his accent is absurd, the character is ridiculous, I don't like Michael Rispoli, the character of Grandma is ridiculous. For me, everything works. And for a movie that builds to a kind of climax, like a Rocky movie, like Victory, one of my favorites with Stallone, underdogs try to make good. Rounders is one of the most rewatchable movies ever. Another reason why I classify it as great, because rewatchability matters. Now, I'm not going to compare Rounders to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo or Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho or Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull, which is incredible but brutal, and I don't think I ever want to watch another minute of that film, or Goodfellas for that matter. Taxi Driver, yes, I can watch anytime. That I don't really understand. But a movie, it's got to have some level of rewatchability. For the purposes of this, it's a film that we like to talk about. I don't know that many film geeks that like to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. And I've been around a lot of film geeks, and I have debated that movie and philosophized about that movie in an academic setting. It's not fun to talk about. Rounders is a movie that is not only fun to revisit again and again, but it is fun to talk about, in part because of the kind of gaps in the way the movie presents Texas Hold'em. And there's a lot of stuff where you say, are they deliberate mistakes by the filmmakers, or are we led to believe that the characters simply fuck up? Because sometimes even the best poker players make mistakes. Phil Ivey at the 2009 World Series of Poker main event, he threw away a flush. He had the winning hand and he missed what he thought he was going for, didn't realize that the 4 cards on the board, and he made a flush, he didn't even table his cards. His opponent tabled, and Phil was pissed off. It didn't fucking show. And the announcers are like, I don't believe this. This guy just folded the winning hand. If that's in a movie, we say, well, he would never do that. Well, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So Rounders follows young Mike McDermott. And for those of you who obviously have seen this film, I'm not going to go heavy on plot. But for those who haven't, I mentioned how the film has a progression and a build like a typical sports movie. And then, as I say, the ESPN thing with the World Series of Poker. But Mike McDermott he's not as intelligent as Will Hunting. The Will Hunting of that movie is supposed to be the smartest man who probably has ever existed in the history of the universe. The two smartest characters in popular culture, if we are going to exclude Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, Michael Scofield from Prison Break, Will Hunting in Good Will Hunting. Call them 1 and 1A. Those are the most intelligent characters that I have been presented with in the context of a motion picture or a TV show. But Mike McDermott is nevertheless brilliant, but he's brilliant within normal parameters. He's brilliant. He probably has an IQ of 135, maybe 140. He's not Will Hunting with scraping 200. But he is a intelligent and cunning and clever young man who is studying to be a lawyer. But what he really wants to do is play in the World Series of Poker. He wants to win the World Series of Poker main event. Another thing that this movie does so beautifully that is not apparent upon first viewing. How many of us, how many kids growing up, you don't have to be a Generation Xer, but I think Gen X and maybe slightly older, possibly if you're an elder millennial in your early 40s at this point, make a living doing something other than work, right? Or other than conventional work. And this is something that's discussed in the film. It went over my head when I was in my mid-20s. The concept of work. And what Matt Damon really wants to do is just play poker. He does not want to have a regular everyday grind of being an attorney after law school, working a fucking law library for a big firm. Might make a lot of money, but he also might be doing this or nowadays that, studying shit on a computer screen on his phone, maybe real books, 10, 12 hours a day. It's not what he wants to do. He'd rather sit 10, 12 hours a day on day 6 of the 1998 World Series of Poker main event. That's really what he wants to do. And as a kid, and I know I'm not the only one, you latch on to a sport, an activity, or something that is not a 9-to-5 profession where you have somebody breathing down your neck for a deadline or get your ass in gear. You got one more chance or you're fired, whatever it might be. I thought I was going to be a professional bowler. I thought that I was good enough where one day I would be a professional bowler. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'd be on the road bowling and I wouldn't have a regular job. What I missed is that it is a regular job. And the John Turturro character in the movie, he is there as almost a Greek chorus. He doesn't say this, but he is almost looked down upon, not by John Malkovich's character. They don't really have much interaction, but Edward Norton's Worm. And for a time, for a significant chunk of this particular movie, he is almost looked down upon even by Mike McDermott. John Turturro's character is a guy who plays poker for a living. So it's kind of what Matt wants to do with his life, but he doesn't want to do it the way Joey Knish, that's the name of the character. What a great name. Joey Knish. He doesn't want to do it like Joey Knish because Joey Knish is somebody who averages making a certain amount of money per hour. He does not have outsized dreams of winning the World Series of Poker. That doesn't mean this guy, if this were a real guy, would never play tournaments, but he ain't sinking 10 grand into an entry fee for the World Series of Poker. He plays for money. He has an ex-wife to pay alimony to. He has kids to put through college. He takes this very seriously. He does not take dumb risks. He'll sit down with a couple of thousand against shitty players, and more often than not, he's going to walk away, hey, a couple of hundred ahead. But then there are going to be times where the cards shine on him. Get the money in when you've got the best of it, and protect it when you don't. Don't take unnecessary risks. And Damon's character makes a point, Mike says, about Joey Knish, when he starts to come around and realize, well, maybe this guy knows what he's doing. He hasn't had to work since college. And Edward Norton, unsympathetic though Worm might be, points out what to him is obvious. You don't think that's work? You don't think what Joey's doing is a grind? He's busting his ass. And from Worm's perspective, he's not doing it the right way because he never takes any risks. He never tries to game somebody. But the idea is, the fantasy that Matt Damon has, even under the best of circumstances, bro, you're still going to be working. Hasn't hit you yet? You're not going to be working as a lawyer. You're not going to be in a law library. But it might be 4 a.m. and you've sat for 16 straight fucking hours accepting personal needs breaks. If that ain't work, I don't know what is, pal. Something that I get now. In the immortal words of Robert Tepper, Rocky IV, the song that we all remember. You really think that it's going to be as simple as you showing up at the World Series of Poker, you're going to win $1 million and then retire? There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. Everything amounts to work. Whether you like it or not, or whether you can admit that even sitting and playing a game that you love 80 or 90 hours a week, it's fucking work, bro. And Matt Damon's character has a clearly defined arc in the movie. He starts in one place. It's not so much that he realizes the error of his ways, but he gets it. You were doing fine, playing smaller stakes, taking the occasional shot, but not putting your whole role on the line on it for a turn of the cards, because shit happens. And as he puts it, I didn't just get unlucky, I got outplayed. And that's the reality. That's even more reason. Because as Mike McDermott tells us, he tells a story where he outplays the best poker player in the world for one hand. He thinks that means he can risk his bankroll, but the reality is, in the short term, anything can happen. Even someone like me, I can sit down at a table opposite the best in the world. If I happen to be dealt pocket aces and Phil Ivey is dealt pocket kings, well, we both know enough about how betting works. The money is all going to get in there. 87% of the time, Phil Ivey's he's going broke. 13% of the time, I'm going broke. And therein lies the rub. Because Matt Damon, in a critical opening scene, he has a hand that he should not lose with. But he does not have what we call in poker the stone cold nuts. He does not have the absolute best possible hand given the cards in his hand, the cards on the board. You leave yourself open and vulnerable. There's a big difference. If your bankroll is $100,000 and you sit down with $3,000 and you lose, well, that sucks. $3,000, I don't give a fuck if it's 1998 or 2024. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But it's not your whole bankroll. And the same scenario that Matt Damon's character of Mike experiences, where he gets a fucking monster hand cracked by a bigger hand, that's only supposed to temporarily shelve him. That's supposed to, hey, you lost your first buy-in. You've got another bullet here. No. He makes a mistake, a conceptual error, not realizing there is a percentage where you're fucked. That's the game. Whether it's blackjack, whether it's poker. Hell, whether it's life. The best laid plans. He could finish law school, get a degree, go to work, start making big money, work 80 hours a week, firm goes under, and then he's out of work. And now what are you going to do? Maybe it won't be so easy getting another job. Shit happens. You got to protect yourself. Get it in when you can. Get it in good when you can. Protect when you can't. And that's really what it is. The movie Rounders, there are so many different life lessons, even though there is never a sense of, even the John Turturro character, the Greek chorus, he's not beating us over the head. He's telling Mike, kid, you have tremendous talent for this game. It happens. You got a little sloppy. I can only help you with money in a certain context. You know that I can help you, but it has to be my way. You want me to stake you? No problem. I know that you're going to win more than you lose. You're only temporarily out of the game. No problem. But he is a realistic character. You could say that that's the most realistic character in the story because he's somebody who has done it, but not the way Mike wants to do it. Mike wants the glory. He wants fortune and glory. And honestly, he wants the brass ring without paying his dues. And that's another thing in life. It is possible to make a shit ton of money in 2024 without busting your hump for years. It's possible, but the reality is it's not that likely. That's the, not just outlier, that's a massive, huge outlier. You got to knuckle up, whatever it is that you're doing. And you could go to Vegas and the fucking Mirage, or the Rio, or what used to be the World Series of Poker was held at Binion's Horseshoe for so many years. You pull up a stake, you take your crack. And if you lose, then what? You're going to end up becoming a lawyer? Who knows? We don't know what will become of Mike McDermott. But the fantasy, the dream is still there. The idea of not working for a living, even though by the end of the film, he has come to realize from the stress, the sweat, yeah. But he would still rather do that than be a lawyer. And the movie Rounders, as you know, as you can tell, I didn't go into any spoilers or plot-heavy stuff. Every actor is amazing in this film. I mean, you want to say Gretchen Mol, she doesn't have that much to do, but she's a believable character, and she's a very sort of, she kind of keeps the film grounded, because it's weird, you have one female character in her and one male character in John Turturro's Joey Knish. They're both almost a Greek chorus. They ask questions of Mike McDermott that the audience would like to ask. You don't see that too often. And a character Worm, the Edward Norton character, he wants Mike McDermott to play dirty also. No, I want to win, but I'm going to win the right way. I'm going to take my shot, and if I lose, I lose. But Martin Landau, who had not that long in the past, had won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his incredible portrayal of Bela Lugosi in certainly Tim Burton's most underrated film and Johnny Depp's most underrated performance, Ed Wood. Martin Landau plays the law professor who has his own personal heartaches as somebody whose family was Jewish, and how every man in the family became a rabbi. And he, my God, became a legal scholar and a respected judge and professor, tenured at a big university. Yeah. And he disappointed his family because he was supposed to be a rabbi. His scenes with Matt Damon take you by surprise. They're all gold. And Landau clearly is having a blast and enjoying this role. And I feel like because it was Landau, an Oscar winner, I feel like they gave him more to do than maybe the original script by David Koppelman and Brian Levin contained. It's cool to see the real tremendous two-time World Series of Poker main event winner Johnny Chan as himself in this film. I love that. And the poker jargon, some of which I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. I feel like some of it was made up for this movie, or just a few people used to talk a certain way. But Matt Damon crushes it. Malkovich is a hoot. And everyone else, even Famke Janssen as a somewhat sympathetic person who runs one of the local poker rooms that it's probably illegal, but they really don't give a shit. They let them do whatever they want. Everyone brings it. The music is great. The shots of the city, some of the jokes about stuff that was going on in the 90s is Steinbrenner, or as the actor Lenny Venito says, can fucking Steinbrenner just move the fucking Yankees? Well, I don't know. We don't get to Steinbrenner till next term, in law school. So many great shots, though, of the city. Great shots of Atlantic City and the casinos. I think some of it was shot at the Taj as it looked, circa 1997, 98. A great movie. Currently streaming free on the Pluto app and an app called Hoopla. That's another app similar to Canopy, where if you have a library card or if you have access to a friend's library card, it's completely free. The movie Rounders is streaming free on those two channels. I've seen this film at least 15 times. I could watch it once a week and never get tired of it. Because there is that kind of classic idea of good guy, spoiler alert, good guy coming out on top. The underdog making good, getting beaten down and rising. And who doesn't love a good underdog story? Rounders. The third entry in our continuing series of the great movies, directed by John Dahl and starring Matt Damon, Edward Norton, Gretchen Mol, John Turturro, Michael Rispoli, Famke Janssen, Martin Landau, and a fire John Malkovich. This has been episode 285 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I want to thank you all for spending some of your Thursday morning here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode sooner than you think. Until then, Mr. Son of a Bitch, let's play some cards.